Most people think the internet is just magic. You click a button and a product arrives at your door. They don't see the engine room. They don't see the massive invisible cloud infrastructure keeping that illusion alive. My name is Maya. I was the lead cloud infrastructure architect for one of the largest global e-commerce platforms on the planet. My entire existence revolved around one singular, high-stakes metric: uptime. We were preparing for our annual global mega sale, a brutal 48-hour window where we expected millions of concurrent users and projected over $2 billion in raw revenue. In the world of high-scale DevOps, a single minute of downtime during an event like this doesn't just burn millions of dollars. It permanently destroys consumer trust and crashes the stock price. To prepare for the incoming tsunami of web traffic, I designed a flawless, multi-region cloud architecture. It was a beautiful ecosystem of containerized microservices and elastic auto-scaling groups. If our traffic suddenly spiked by 500%, my code would automatically spin up thousands of new servers across the globe in milliseconds, balancing the massive data load seamlessly. It was an unbreakable, self-healing digital fortress. But there is a fatal flaw in building a highly complex system that runs perfectly on its own. When the technology works flawlessly, the executives at the very top start to wonder why they are paying so much for it. If you have ever built something bulletproof, only to watch a corporate suit tear it down just to save a few pennies on a spreadsheet, keep watching. Welcome back to Scars and Silk. Hit that subscribe button right now because today I am going to show you exactly what happens when you let an arrogant financial executive try to play God with your servers. Our problem started when the board of directors brought in a new chief financial officer, Julian. Julian was a classic spreadsheet executive. He didn't know the difference between a load balancer and an Ethernet cable, but he knew exactly how to slash operating expenses to make himself look like a financial genius to the shareholders. Exactly 4 weeks before the global mega sale, Julian decided to aggressively audit the IT infrastructure budget. He called me into his pristine corner office and pointed at a massive line item on his monitor. It was our AWS cloud hosting bill. He was looking at the thousands of standby compute instances and the geographic redundancy clusters I had meticulously configured for the upcoming traffic spike. To an elite DevOps architect, that massive bill is a non-negotiable insurance policy. But to Julian, it was just idle server capacity burning a hole in his quarterly profit margins. Maya, Julian said, tapping his designer pen against the mahogany desk, I am looking at millions of dollars in server redundancy for capacity we aren't even using today. It's wildly inefficient. I need you to cut our cloud footprint by 80% immediately. I stared at him in absolute disbelief. I opened my laptop and showed him the stress test data. I explained that those idle servers were our elastic buffer. I warned him that without that massive auto-scaling redundancy, the exact second our global marketing campaign went live, the primary server clusters would drown in traffic. The databases would lock up, the payment gateways would time out, and the entire e-commerce platform would completely collapse under the load. Julian just scoffed and leaned back in his chair. You engineers always over-engineer everything just to feel safe, he said, flashing a condescending smile. It's a terrible way to manage corporate capital. You are trying to protect your bloated budget. Cut the 80% of the servers, Maya. We are running this event lean to maximize the profit margin. He wasn't just asking me to lower our defenses, he was ordering me to unplug the life support system of a billion-dollar platform right before a hurricane hit. I didn't just tell Julian he was wrong, I proved it mathematically. I ran a series of aggressive load testing simulations on his new lean infrastructure proposal, The data was apocalyptic. I generated a highly detailed report showing exactly where the network bottlenecks would choke the throughput, when the databases would inevitably lock up, and precisely how many millions of dollars in revenue we would lose per minute when the service level agreements, SLAs, were breached. I printed the simulation data, walked into his office, and told him I absolutely refused to sign off on the downgraded architecture. In enterprise DevOps, the lead architect's sign-off is the final seal of approval before deployment. It means the system is safe. Without my signature, the legal and financial liability for any catastrophic failure rested entirely on his shoulders. Julian's condescending smile vanished. He realized I wasn't going to be bullied into compromising the system just so he could hit his quarterly bonus targets. "You are being deliberately dramatic, Maya," he snapped, his face turning red. "You are trying to sabotage this company's financial efficiency to protect your own ego. I am not asking for your permission. I am giving you a direct executive order to cut the servers." I looked him dead in the eye. "My job is to keep the platform online. Your order guarantees it will crash. I won't do it." That was it. Julian didn't even bother consulting human resources. He fired me on the spot for gross insubordination. He called building security to escort me back to my desk, forced me to hand over my encrypted laptop, and had me marched out of the glass lobby like a criminal. As I was standing on the sidewalk outside the headquarters, my phone buzzed. I watched the automated alerts roll in. My administrative access, my security keys, and my root privileges to the entire cloud environment had been permanently revoked. Julian thought he had won. He thought he had successfully removed the only obstacle standing between him and his massive cost-saving victory. He didn't realize that in complex cloud architecture, taking away an engineer's access is exactly how you guarantee a disaster.
I didn't scream. I didn't threaten a lawsuit. I didn't even argue. I just walked out to my car, drove home, and made myself a premium cup of coffee. Sometimes, the most brutal form of malicious compliance is simply doing absolutely nothing when an arrogant executive demands to drive the company off a cliff. Back at the headquarters, Julian ordered my junior engineering team to execute his vision. Terrified of losing their jobs, they deleted the geographic redundancy clusters. They manually terminated the standby compute instances. They ripped out the auto-scaling groups to give Julian his perfect, cheap, lean infrastructure. But what Julian's financial spreadsheet couldn't tell him is that massive cloud environments are held together by highly sensitive orchestration scripts. When Julian panic revoked my administrative access to kick me out of the building, he didn't just lock me out of the system. He inadvertently disabled the automated emergency failover protocols, which were securely bound to my specific encrypted security credentials. He didn't just lower the company's digital shields, he completely broke the emergency brake. I want to pause the story right here. I am talking directly to the women who have had to deal with a toxic, micromanaging boss. Have you ever realized that the absolute most powerful thing you can do is just step back, say okay, and watch them completely destroy their own project because they refuse to listen to your expertise? Go down to the comments right now and drop a coffee or some popcorn if you know the pure satisfaction of letting corporate arrogance fail on its own. And make sure you hit that subscribe button to join the Scars and Silk Network, because you need to see exactly how fast a billion-dollar platform burns without its architect. Back to the disaster. I was sitting on my couch, watching the clock tick closer to midnight. It was 11:55 p.m., 5 minutes until the massive global mega sale went live, and Julian was about to learn a very expensive lesson in cloud architecture. At exactly 12 a.m., the global marketing campaign deployed. Millions of push notifications and emails hit consumer devices simultaneously.
The resulting wave of inbound internet traffic wasn't just a spike. It was a digital tsunami. Within 60 seconds, over 5 million concurrent users hit our API gateways, all desperately trying to add discounted items to their carts at the exact same time. In a properly architected cloud environment, my auto-scaling scripts would have instantly deployed thousands of new servers, gracefully absorbing the blow. But Julian had ripped out the safety nets to make his spreadsheet look pretty. I sat on my couch, sipping my coffee, watching the live public monitoring tools on my laptop. It was a brutal, beautiful mathematical inevitability. At 12:02 a.m., Julian's highly restricted, lean compute instances spiked to 100% CPU utilization. The servers were instantly suffocating under the load. At 12:03 a.m., the primary databases locked up, completely unable to process the massive backlogged transaction queue. And at exactly 12:04 a.m., the entire global e-commerce platform violently collapsed. Anyone trying to access the site, from New York to Tokyo, was met with a blank white screen and a devastating plain text message. Error 503. Service unavailable. Inside the corporate headquarters, absolute chaos erupted. The engineering crisis war room was deafening. The massive dashboards that were supposed to show record-breaking sales were completely red. Every single second the site was offline, the company was hemorrhaging millions of dollars in lost revenue. The global marketing team was screaming. The customer support lines were completely gridlocked, and social media was actively trending with our catastrophic failure. The board of directors was calling the C-suite, demanding immediate answers. Julian, the spreadsheet genius who thought he could outsmart the engineers, was standing in the center of the war room, watching his career evaporate in real time. But the worst was yet to come, because he was about to realize that turning the servers back on wasn't just a matter of pressing a button.
In a corporate crisis, incompetent executives always default to the exact same strategy. They try to throw money at a problem they don't understand. Julian sprinted into the middle of the engineering war room, completely unhinged, screaming at the junior developers. Just buy more servers. Spin up the cloud provisioning immediately. I don't care what it costs. Just get the site back online. But high-scale cloud architecture under a total collapse doesn't work like a light switch. You can't just plug in new hardware. The junior engineers frantically tried to manually spin up new compute instances. But because the entire system had crashed mid-transaction, the network traffic was completely corrupted. Millions of users were aggressively refreshing their browsers, inadvertently launching a massive distributed denial of service DDoS attack against our own platform. Every time the junior team brought a new server online, the overloaded load balancers immediately slammed it with millions of backlogged, corrupted requests. The new servers would instantly suffocate and die in a matter of seconds. It was a digital death loop. One of the terrified junior engineers finally stood up and explained the brutal reality to Julian. Adding new servers without the custom emergency orchestration scripts to elegantly route the corrupted traffic was like throwing a bucket of water onto an electrical fire. It was just making the explosion worse. "So use the orchestration scripts," Julian demanded, his voice cracking. The junior engineer stared at him, pale and sweating. "We can't. They are hard-coded to the lead architect's security credentials. When you revoked Maya's access and locked her out of the system, you broke the disaster recovery protocol. We are completely deadlocked." Julian froze. The horrifying realization finally hit him. He hadn't just fired an employee, he had destroyed the only key to the building. The company was bleeding tens of millions of dollars an hour.
The board of directors was demanding his immediate resignation, and he was trapped inside a burning data center of his own making. He only had one option left. He had to pick up the phone and call the woman he had just marched out of the building.
At exactly 12:45 a.m., my phone rang. It was Julian. The arrogant executive who had marched me out of the building like a criminal just hours earlier sounded like he was hyperventilating. He wasn't giving orders anymore. He was begging. He confessed that the entire global platform was dead. They were bleeding tens of millions of dollars an hour, and the board of directors was demanding his head. He pleaded with me to log back in and turn the servers on. I took a slow sip of my coffee, perfectly calm, enjoying the silence on my end of the line. "Julian," I said softly, "I would love to help you, but I don't work for your company anymore. I am currently an independent cloud architecture consultant." He didn't care. He was completely desperate. He frantically asked what my hourly rate was. "I don't bill by the hour for emergency incident response," I replied, my voice ice cold. "My premium disaster recovery fee is a flat $1 million, payable immediately via wire transfer, before I touch a single line of code." There was an agonizing, breathless silence on the line. He knew I had him cornered. When your spreadsheet error is costing the company $20 million an hour, a $1 million consulting ransom is just the cost of doing business. Julian authorized the emergency wire transfer from the corporate contingency fund. The money hit my account 3 minutes later. I set down my coffee, opened my laptop, and securely tunneled into the network using my emergency backdoor SSH keys. I executed a single command line. My orchestration scripts instantly woke up. The system bypassed the deadlock, the auto-scaling groups deployed flawlessly, isolating the corrupted traffic and smoothly spinning up 10,000 new compute instances across our global regions. I watched the dashboards light up green as the load balancers gracefully distributed the traffic. 15 minutes after his wire transfer cleared, the billion-dollar platform was fully operational. The mega sale was saved. But the board of directors didn't thank Julian for getting the site back online. The next morning, they audited the catastrophic downtime, saw his authorized $1 million consulting invoice for the employee he had just fired, and terminated him instantly for gross negligence. To every brilliant woman in tech, engineering, and corporate leadership, when they completely underestimate your expertise and try to